Good morning! Vault-Tec calling.
Hello and welcome to Wonderful Taco Gamers. We'll be reviewing Fallout 4. It's available on the Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and the PC.
War. War never changes.
Fallout 4 takes place in post-apocalyptic Massachusetts in 2287. The story of Fallout 4 is tough to put into words, though. There is a main story, of course, although there's a good chance that's not what you'll be following most of the time. With the gigantic amount of side quests this game has on offer, and all of the terminals in the game that give even more backstory to so many different kinds of situations, there really is a huge amount of story to be had. Exploring the world, meeting new characters, and learning their stories is what makes the story in this game. As far as following a main story and completing the main game goes, this isn't that type of game. It isn't where this review is going to focus. There are some excellent side quests this game has in store that can be either great mysteries, hilarious stories, or truly horrifying experiences. During one such side quest, you learn that children were raised to 17 years of age to be used for genetic experimentations, and only the standout children were chosen to be experimented on and ultimately killed, while the children that showed no signs of being special were incinerated to make room for new batches of children that were born from the females that were recently incinerated. This is some truly messed up stuff, but is hard to pull away from. On the other hand, you can dress up as a hero and dispense justice on evil people while talking in a deep comical voice in order to attempt to scare people. There's a really large and diverse category of quests in the game that make up for what would appear to be a lackluster main story, although this could simply be due to not having fully completed everything the main story has on offer. The graphics in this game look great. There's a lot of hate flowing around when it comes to the graphics, but in all honesty, for the size of the game and what it is, the graphics really do look excellent. As always, if you decide to zoom in on something, the graphics won't look like they're great, but the game does look very nice. The textures look fine, and it's a pretty breathtaking game at times. Some areas will look like beautiful, destroyed areas, while others, particularly the glowing sea, look almost like you're not even on Earth anymore. All in all, the game does look great. Yes, I get it. A lot of the game is gray or brown in color, but that doesn't mean that it's bad looking, and it very much suits the game, which isn't meant to be a colorful feast for the eyes, but rather a destroyed wasteland. If there's one complaint I have with the graphics, which really kind of edges more toward the animation, the faces really don't look all that great, and the animations are still really stiff. When somebody talks, it looks really stiff, and when somebody moves around, it also looks really stiff. Bethesda has never really been known for their animations. It's not that it's a deal breaker or anything to really worry about, but by this point in time, you'd figure that the animations would really be a lot better. It's certainly a huge upgrade from Fallout 3, but is still really lagging behind other games. Now, not all animations are like this, and there are some characters with a lot of animations, such as Piper, but they are few and far between. The meat of any game is in its gameplay, and in this case, Fallout 4 shines in a huge way. First of all, creating your character is always a fun time. The character creator isn't the most expansive creator of any game ever, but you can absolutely make some truly horrifying characters if you want to. You can also, of course, make some sexy ones.
Sweetie, you look as beautiful as the day we met.
Moving on to the weapons, the gigantic array of weapons and armor in this game is something I was not expecting when going into the game. With legendary enemies that drop special versions of guns and armor, there are tons of different items to keep you coming back and looting around for more. The gunplay is a whole lot smoother than Fallout 3 was too. It's a lot more like recent shooters in that it flows a lot nicer and that the game can actually be played without relying too heavily on the VATS system if you wanted to. And what is the VATS system? For those that haven't played Fallout, VATS is a targeting system that slows the game down, allowing the player to lock onto specific body parts and shoot them. When entering VATS, the game will take into consideration the weapon you're using, how far from the enemy you are, and what body parts are visible. The game will then assign these parts percentages, telling your chance to hit that part and deal damage to the enemy. The VATS system actually winds up making this game far more accessible for those that don't commonly play shooters, which is a huge deal. The main difference between Fallout 3 and Fallout 4 with the VATS system is that the game does not entirely stop like it did in Fallout 3, but rather it only slows time down, as I mentioned a moment ago. Another big portion of the gameplay in Fallout is the dialogue system. It's a bit toned down from the previous game, and only shows a quick description of what your character might say regarding the choice. The issue that people have with this is that they liked being able to see everything the character was going to say and what was needed in order to say it. This game kind of boils it all down to a sarcastic response, a nice response, a mean response,
Go away.
or asking a question. This has made some people unhappy. The positive side to this is that your character is now fully voiced. All in all, it's a concession that many are unhappy about. It is an unfortunate side effect of a fully voiced main character. The crafting system in this game is also nothing to scoff at. There are all kinds of different stations to craft things at, such as weapons, weapon mods, armor mods, or even creating entire buildings. The crafting system also brings into play the ability to break items down and use those for the crafting, making the compulsion to pick everything you see up even worse than it would normally be. This whole section of the game can be entirely ignored if you so wish, and it won't have much of an impact on your ability to play. If you do decide to dig deep into the whole system though, be prepared, because it is easy to get sucked into creating cities for people to live in, or creating a gigantic building for you to live in. The leveling system in Fallout 4 is similar to the past games, except now each level you get, you have 1 point to spend on leveling up. This point can be spent on your stats such as charisma, strength, perception, luck, whatever it is, or one of a ridiculously huge amount of choices of perks. These perks range from helping you carry more weight or dealing more melee damage. They could help you pacify or take command of enemies, or maybe you have a higher chance of shooting somebody's limbs off. Most perks also have different levels to them, such as level 1 will add 20% to your melee damage. Level 2 will add another 20%, but also give you the ability to knock a weapon out of their hands upon hitting them. And maybe by the time you get to level 5 in that perk, you have the ability to deal 100% more melee damage, and you also have the chance to bat their head off of their shoulders like a baseball. This huge selection of perks is what makes leveling up in the game so much fun, as each level is truly a tough decision on where you want to bring your character next. Some good news about this is that there is no level cap on the game, meaning, hypothetically, one could max out every stat, unlock every perk, and level everything up to max. This is great news for those that just can't get enough. The game also has many different difficulty levels, ranging from very easy to hardcore, as well as differences in the difficulties. The main difference, besides obviously enemies having more life or dealing more damage to you, is the chance for legendary enemies to appear. Legendary enemies are enemies that, when killed, will drop ultra-rare pieces of equipment that do special things, such as higher resistances to humans, shooting energy shots instead of regular bullets, or even slowing down time when you're low on health. This adds a very loot-like feel to the game, making it feel even more like an RPG. Obviously, the length of the game is how long you make it or can take it. The game could go on for hundreds of hours if you wanted it to. It all depends on how much you want to keep playing, because there's a good chance there will be more content there for you if you want to keep going. Finally, there are the glitches and the frame rate drops. Do they happen? Yeah. Are they that big of a deal? Not entirely. The version I played, Xbox One, hasn't had a whole lot of frame rate dips. There are always the odd glitches, but honestly, it's nothing that stopped me from playing the game or getting frustrated, as the glitches would generally tend more toward the funny rather than the game breaking. And it's not that the bad glitches don't occur, such as the game freezing, being stuck in an area, or being unable to finish a quest, although personally I didn't experience these, but rather that they occur so infrequently that it's really not that big of a deal. All in all, the glitches and the frame rate drops truly don't affect the game so much as to stop me from playing, and they most likely won't stop you either. When everything else works so well, it's easy to forgive little technical glitches like this. The music in Fallout 4 is excellent. I could listen to the orchestral music in this game for hours without becoming bored. The radio stations, on the other hand, aren't as good as they could be, but I suppose maybe it's just because older music is tough for me to get into. Not only that, but the music repeats itself quite a bit. It isn't that it's entirely bad either, but more that the ambient music in this game is actually pretty great to listen to this time around. There's a lot more of it, and it just sounds a lot better. The combat music is also excellent this time around and really brings you into the battles. It also sounds a little more like RPG type music, and it's kinda hard to explain, but it just feels right. The voice acting in this game is also much better than your usual Bethesda game. There are a lot more voices for the characters, and the acting is a lot better than what's expected, considering the gigantic amount of content in the game. The sound effects are also on par, but aren't anything that stand out. When a gun goes off in the distance, it sounds far away, and if in the open, it makes a satisfying echo and popping noise. When enemies attack from the sides, the surround sound does a great job picking that up. All in all, the audio does sound great.
Mr. Fuckface!
In the end, reviewing Fallout 4 is a really challenging thing to do. See, the absolutely gigantic amount of content really makes the game very hard to review in a way that many will find satisfying. See, some people will get mad when a reviewer tries to overlook things such as glitches or bad animations, while others can easily overlook these things and just enjoy what the game is about and what the core of the game was meant to be. I mean, if you've played Fallout 3 and you enjoyed Fallout 3, then I don't see why you would not enjoy this game. If you're new to the series, then this game will most likely suck you in just as much or even more. Saying that, I know people that really don't play video games that have 3 times as much playtime as me on this game. These are people that don't really like to play shooters due to finding them too hard. It's a very approachable game, and is an excellent follow-up to Fallout 3. All in all, I would highly recommend this game to anybody.
Congratulations on being prepared for the future.
Thanks again.